After Batwoman is just minutes away from revealing Superman's crimes to the whole world, Raven appears just in time to completely enrobe the entire city in darkness, preventing Batman's team from continuing their transmission. But when everything seems lost in Bruce's eyes, Lex Luthor suddenly comes up with an idea that could change the entire fate of this Earth, prompting the idea of bringing Justice League members from other realities to operate Batman's secret weapon. Now, Bruce wants to make sure he understands what Lex is proposing and says, "You want to abduct parallel versions of the Justice League from an alternate universe and use their DNA to unlock the kryptonite weapon?" Lex doesn't shy away from the idea when Bruce asks if he knows how to find them and bring them here. He reveals that Star Labs has already spent years tracking alternate Earths and compiling information. Data that can be hacked, adds Batman. However, another problem arises. Barry is the only person he knows capable of traveling between universes, and he certainly is not going to help them. Lex suddenly proceeds to walk toward one of the secret walls and reveals to Bruce that Flash has been helping them without even knowing it. "Ever since Clark tasked me with building a new super prison, I've been working with Flash," he says, "and the only reason the prison is complete is because of his super speed efforts." Now, as the two stand before one of Lex Luthor's machines, Batman immediately realizes what he has been doing and asks if he has been siphoning Speed Force energy from Barry. Luthor confirms it, though not specifically for this situation. He had simply been collecting it as a precaution. Now, if they can acquire the right transportation device, they could reconfigure it to run on that stored Speed Force energy. One word comes to Bruce's mind: the Mother Box. And one particular group has one at the moment: Star Labs. Unfortunately, it is kept inside one of the most heavily fortified and well-defended armories controlled by the regime, which Lex points out to Bruce that he will have to break into before asking if he will be able to do it. For the first time in 5 years, Batman smiles at such a question as he responds that he has a better idea. A day later, in Bali, Indonesia, Slade asks Bruce why him, to which he answers, "Because you're one of the few people who can pull it off, and I need someone they won't see coming, someone who can fly under the radar, someone who isn't me." He is hardly convinced, assuming that Batman must be near the top of the regime's most wanted list, and questions why he thinks Slade cares about the regime anyway. However, Bruce can see past their differences and knows there is no way Slade is okay with the way the world is now. Bruce reminds him that the regime forced him out of the game in the first place. Now he has an opportunity to get even. Seconds later, he asks what the job is. Bruce explains that he will need him to break into the regime's armory, adding that they can help him get in, but he is on his own getting out. Deathstroke considers the odds of that suicide mission, but still reassures him that it sounds like fun. The next day, he is already on the move. He arrives at a remote mountain range in the middle of nowhere, where the regime has hidden its armory deep inside the rock. As Slade scales the mountain, he has to give them some credit. The facility is locked down tighter than a drum, with almost no obvious way inside, but that will not be enough to keep him out, because all he needs is a single point of entry. He then proceeds to transmit the coordinates to Lex, who orders him to stand by for teleportation, and in a blink, he is inside. As he scouts the corridor, he thinks to himself that putting the suit back on feels better than he expected. Retirement never suited him anyway. In his mind, he is still one of the greatest mercenaries alive, and he has not forgotten what the regime did to him when they tried to force him out of business. "Superman should have hired me to take down the Insurgency from the beginning. His personal war with Batman would be over," he says. But instead, Clark shut Deathstroke down, and he considers that a mistake, a foolish one. He quickly gets through the secured door and confirms that he is inside. Lex, over the comm, asks whether he encountered much resistance along the way. He barely considers it worth mentioning, just as he has left a pile of unconscious bodies behind him. However, there is still a problem. Slade reports that he has the correct aisle, row, and lot number for the item he is looking for, but no specific case number. Now he decides that there is only one option to go about it, and begins opening the cases one by one until he finally gets to it. Suddenly a voice calls for him to drop his weapons and surrender. In an instant, Deathstroke reaches for his blades and says sharply that if they want his weapons, they are going to have to take them from him. The super soldier accepts the challenge without hesitation and gives the order to fire at will, bringing complete excitement back to Slade. He tears through the regime soldiers one after another, cutting, striking, and forcing his way deeper into their ranks. He wonders just how much of a problem the regime considers him now, and he genuinely wants an answer. As the bodies pile up around him, he now finds himself face to face with the one who gave the order to attack. He gets closer to him and asks whether the regime is dealing with a little problem or a big one. Muttering his words, he replies, "Big one," and in seconds, a headbutt to the head follows, with Slade agreeing with him. Suddenly, a torrent of flames hits Deathstroke right in the chest as the voice of Metamorpho is heard, mentioning that it just got a lot harder. Far away in the regime's new super prison, Hal is demanding a damn good reason for what has just happened. Sinestro, as always, responds with his typical sarcasm, saying that it looks like an unfortunate case of prison justice. Jordan, who immediately suspects there is more to it, asks the obvious question. Let me guess, there is no video? And sure enough, he is told that the camera inside the cell suffered a convenient malfunction. Still, he knows there are other possibilities, but Sinestro points out that a guess is all it would be, because Hal does not actually know who killed the prisoner. We may never know the killer's motivation, he adds, but he took his time. There are over 100 wounds on his body. It was probably personal. As the exchange between the two continues, it's revealed that Damien has crossed the line voluntarily to take revenge for Alfred's murder. Jordan may believe that he is investigating a mystery murder, but his face suggests that he already knows the answers to all his questions. Back in the armory, Deathstroke quickly recovers from Metamorpho's surprise attack and dismisses the first hit as nothing more than luck. Still, Metamorpho has no interest in Slade's confidence and tells him to save the tough talk for someone who actually cares. As the enormous hammer comes crashing down, Deathstroke takes the upper hand and launches himself directly into the attack. However, Mason is not an easy target. He turns himself into a gaseous material while mocking Slade's terrible catchphrase game, comparing it to his fighting skills before throwing another torrent of flames at him. In seconds, he counterattacks with a swing to his side, but Metamorpho hardens one of his arms into metal, shattering the blade, and drives a heavy blow straight into him. Now he moves toward him, admitting he expected much more from Deathstroke, but for someone with his reputation, he considers the legendary mercenary a disappointment. Slade refuses to accept that the fight is over and raises his weapon, firing 2 projectiles directly at him. Mason turns his skin into water momentarily and mocks the attempt, telling Slade that the fight is already finished, but he is simply too stubborn to realize it. With the entire area now engulfed in flames, he tells Deathstroke that he is finished, and that if it is any consolation, Slade never really had a chance. However, his moment is cut short when Slade presses a button on his weapon, causing the magnetic marbles to return to him and hit an unaware Metamorpho right in the back of the head, killing him in an instant. Without wasting time, he goes back to the container with the mother box and begins to upload the schematic diagrams. But of course, even he knows he will not be able to stroll out of there that easily. He moves immediately, evading the bullets, and uses his grappling hook to slam the container into the soldier's head. He makes his move toward the exit, satisfied that his work is finished, and hoping Batman appreciates the gift he has left behind. However, Cyborg intercepts him and blasts him directly in the chest. And worse, Raven also appears. Slade is not surprised to see either of them. He expected the regime to send some of its biggest guns after him, but what they don't know is that it is already too late. Back at the Pacific Lead mines, Lex confirms that Deathstroke has been captured, but what Batman is interested in is whether the regime has discovered why he was inside the armory. Luthor explains that he is not talking, and Bruce is certain that he never will. He frowns at the idea that yet another opportunity has slipped from their hands. However, after Lex takes a look at the monitor, his eyes widen as he sees a full 3D schematic of the mother box, revealing that Slade managed to map it and send it to Batman just in time. Bruce, who is completely serious, looks at the monitor and says he knew he wasn't going to be able to get out of there, so he did what he had to do. The question is, can we use this to build our machine? With a subtle smile, Luthor can't believe the challenge they have at hand and replies shortly, absolutely.